Chapter 1, Introduction: The Mysterious Side of Ellen DeGeneres. Are you sure you know who Ellen DeGeneres is? This story will show you another side that no one has talked about for 17 years, until 2020. Ellen DeGeneres is a television legend whose popularity grew from her brilliant show where she dished out gifts, jokes, and her unique kindness. But what if that bright image was just a facade hiding a very different reality? In this video, we'll break down the story that stirred Hollywood and fans around the world. Listen carefully, because what you hear will change the way you think about show business and the people who create it. Chapter 2, How It All Began. Ellen as a Symbol of Hope. Ellen DeGeneres' path to fame was not an easy one. She started out as a stand-up comedian, gradually winning the hearts of viewers with her witty and kind jokes. In 1997, Ellen made a historic coming out, becoming the first host on American television to openly declare her orientation. It was a bold decision that brought her both support and criticism. Her courage and friendliness made Ellen an icon, a symbol of the fight for LGBT rights and just a good person who will always support and help. When her show The Ellen DeGeneres Show launched in 2003, it was seen as a breath of fresh air, a positive, bright, and light-hearted program that brought joy to millions of viewers every day. But what if all those years of watching Ellen with a smile on her face, she herself wasn't smiling backstage? Chapter 3, The First Hints of Trouble. Is something wrong? Why did rumors of a strange atmosphere at Ellen's show start leaking out just in 2019? Who was behind those first drops of information that then turned into a real storm? The first alarm bells sounded back in 2019, when some sources started hinting that the atmosphere on the show was far from being as rosy as it seemed. Reports began to emerge that Ellen wasn't actually as benevolent as she is portrayed on screen. But those rumors were pushed aside at the time. Could an icon of kindness be the cause of someone else's misery? One anonymous staff member said at the time, "People don't realize the gulf that exists between what Ellen appears to be on screen and what she really is. Working for her is a nightmare. You're constantly afraid you could fall under her wrath at any moment." But the audience refused to believe it. Ellen was too good, to or for all of us. By early 2020, however, it was clear that it wasn't just a rumor. Chapter 4, The Scandal Heats Up. Employee Revelations. How did one single social media post serve as the trigger for a scandal that would be discussed for years? That all changed in March 2020 when a Twitter user encouraged people to share their stories about working with Ellen DeGeneres. To the surprise of many, thousands of people responded. Soon, the internet was filled with stories from former employees and guests of the show who described an atmosphere far removed from the one that was broadcast on the screens. The stories were frightening. There was talk of employees being humiliated, suffering from stress and fear of losing their jobs. One former employee of the show stated, "Everything you see on the screen is just theater. In reality, the show is not a place of joy, but a place of fear. To work there is to suffer insults and humiliation every day." These revelations have caused shock not only among fans of the show, but also among Ellen's colleagues in the industry. How is it that such a popular show that promoted kindness and positivity was linked to such dark stories? If you think this behavior is unacceptable, give this video a like and share it so more people can learn the truth. Chapter 5, Ellen and her team's answers. A defense or an attempt to justify themselves? When the truth comes out into the light, what is the best strategy? Silence, denial, or admitting mistakes? Ellen chose the third way, but did it help her? In response to the growing barrage of accusations, Ellen released an official statement. In her letter to staff, she admitted that there were indeed problems on the show, but emphasized that she was unaware of the extent of what was going on. Ellen claimed that she relied on her team to keep things running smoothly, and if something went wrong, it was her fault but not intentional. Ellen's statement caused conflicting reactions. On the one hand, many appreciated her admission of mistakes and her willingness to change things. On the other hand, critics pointed out that such problems could not have gone unnoticed by the show's host for so many years. Additionally, stories began to surface about Ellen's personal interactions with employees that pointed to her own inappropriate behavior. For example, it was alleged that she could be abrupt and even cruel in her interactions with her subordinates, which didn't fit her on-screen image at all. What do you think of Ellen's confessions? Write in the comments whether she can be trusted after all that happened. Chapter 6: Industry Reaction. Stars who supported and turned away. Why did many of Ellen's colleagues choose to remain silent at this critical moment, and some even openly condemned her? Reaction to the scandal in Hollywood has been mixed. Many celebrities who had previously been active on Ellen's show chose a strategy of silence, not taking a stand either for or against the host. This silence was a loud signal to the public: if even Ellen's close friends are not rushing to stand up for her, then perhaps there is truth in these accusations. But there were those who openly supported Ellen. Stars like Kevin Hart and Katy Perry have publicly expressed their support, claiming that Ellen has always been kind and respectful in their interactions. However, their voices were drowned out in the general chorus of accusations. At the same time, stories began to emerge about how some celebrities had declined invitations to the show to avoid being associated with a name that was now surrounded by scandal. Ellen's reputation, which she had been building for years, began to erode rapidly. Chapter 7: The impact of the scandal on the show and its ratings way down the road. Can a show continue to exist when its host loses the trust of its viewers? How long can the opinions of millions be ignored? After the scandal broke, the impact on the show was inevitable. Ratings for the Ellen DeGeneres show began to plummet. Viewers who had been loyal to the show for years began to leave the show en masse, disappointed and stunned by what had happened. Those who had recently admired Ellen now wondered how they could have overlooked the true side of the person they had been so close to through the screen. Television networks and advertisers couldn't ignore what was happening either. Questions about the future of the show began to grow louder. Would they be able to continue to fund the project if viewers were starting to turn away from it? The public started voicing their opinions on social media, demanding explanations and changes. Some even called for the show to be shut down, claiming that it could no longer exist as it was. Ellen and her team were in a difficult position. If they continued, could they regain their former popularity? Chapter 8: Behind the Scenes. What wasn't shown to the audience. What was really going on behind the scenes when the cameras were off? Why didn't anyone talk about it before? After the scandal broke, more and more detailed accounts of what went on behind the scenes of the show began to appear in the press. In interviews, former staff shared harrowing details, from incidents of emotional abuse to outright discrimination. One staff member recounted, "The cameras go off and Ellen becomes a completely different person. She can be rude, abusive, and even violent. What happens behind the scenes has nothing to do with what viewers see." Another witness stated that working on the show was like a toxic environment where you never know what tomorrow holds for you. You could fall under Ellen's wrath for the slightest mistake, or even just for being in a bad mood. These stories shocked the public. No one expected that an exemplary television program could hide behind such a thing. Share your opinion in the comments. Did you know about such details, or was it a surprise for you? Chapter 9: The Public Apology and the Implications for Ellen's Career. Can an apology restore a reputation when the damage done is so great? How far was Ellen willing to go to save her career? After the extent of the scandal became apparent, Ellen went public with an apology. She stated that she was sorry that she was unaware of what was going on behind the scenes and that she would take responsibility to rectify the situation. However, many took her words with skepticism, seeing them as simply an attempt to save her reputation. Ellen took a number of steps to demonstrate her intention to change the situation. She replaced part of the team, added new measures to improve working conditions, and even changed the format of the show. However, the trust of the audience had already been undermined, and it was not so easy to regain it. Despite her best efforts, her career was seriously undermined. Many projects associated with her name began to be postponed or canceled. Many of her contracts and collaborations were renegotiated. Ellen found herself in a situation where her future in the industry was in doubt. Chapter 10. Lessons we can learn from this story. What does Ellen DeGeneres' story teach us? Can we trust public personalities, or is it just a hoax? The Ellen DeGeneres story is more than just a scandal surrounding one television personality. It's a lesson for all of us about how easily we can be fooled by appearances and how important it is to be critical of everything we see and hear. Ellen was an example of how one can reach the heights of popularity while remaining a kind and generous person. But behind this image, as it turns out, there was a lot of darkness lurking. We often idealize celebrities, forgetting that they are human beings like us, with their weaknesses and mistakes. Ellen showed us that even the brightest light can hide a shadow. Can Ellen regain her reputation and get back on track? It remains a matter of time. However, her story has already left a mark on the entertainment industry, reminding us all how important it is to be careful about what's behind public images. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new stories and reveals. Chapter 11, Ellen's Future Rebirth or the End? Can Ellen survive this scandal and return to her former glory? Or is her career over? Ellen DeGeneres' future remains uncertain. Although her show continues to air, its popularity has declined significantly. Ellen is in a difficult situation. On the one hand, she needs to keep working to justify the trust of those who have remained loyal to her. On the other hand, her every move is now under the scrutiny of both the public and the media. Is it possible to get back on top after such a high-profile fall? Ellen has tried to rebuild her reputation, but in today's world, where information spreads at an incredible speed, it is not easy to do so. The question that faces us all is, are we willing to give her a second chance, or has her time on television passed? Ellen is without a doubt one of the most influential figures on television, but this scandal has shown that even the brightest stars can fall. She can continue to fight for her reputation and prove that she is capable of change. However, will she be able to convince her viewers and colleagues of this? Chapter 12, Conclusion. A final look at the situation. So who is Ellen DeGeneres really? A good-natured TV host or a master of covert manipulation? So, what have we learned from this story? Ellen DeGeneres was instilled as a complex personality who cannot be evaluated unequivocally. She has won the hearts of millions of people over the years on television, but this scandal has caused many to reconsider their opinion of her. Perhaps Ellen really didn't know about all the problems on her show. Or maybe she deliberately turned a blind eye to what was going on, preferring to focus on her public image. Whatever the case, this story was a reminder that even the most powerful people are not immune to mistakes and downfalls. What lessons can we learn from this story? Perhaps it is a call to be more careful of those we put on a pedestal. Ellen, like all of us, is not perfect. And how we decide to treat her after all of this is a choice for each of us. Leave your opinion in the comments. What do you think about the Ellen DeGeneres situation? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with the most interesting stories from the world of show business.